Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. I get a lot of mail from you, and I get a lot of YouTube comments from you. And in between those two, even though there's lots of them, lots of opportunities, generally speaking, those emails and the comments will be about one of two things. Even if they don't know that that's what they're about, that's what they're about. It's either, Fred, why can't I wake up? Or Fred, why can't I wake up again if I think or know that I have had a spiritual awakening experience? Fred, why can't I wake up? And I'm going to tell you something that's very clear to me. I don't know how clear it is for you. I think you might resist because it's just a little too simple and a little too hard to tell yourself. But here's the answer. And I'm quite sure of this because that kind of questioning is what I did for 24 years. And and it wasn't just about me, it was about poor me. Poor me couldn't wake up. And why the hell was that? Poor Fred. Well, the reason you can't wake up or you can't wake up again is simple. Your way doesn't work. How about that? Your way doesn't work. And have I ever seen anybody work with a teacher for years and years and then finally wake up? I can't. I have. Yeah. It's not really very common, but I have. But it can be like that. But the thing is that teacher is your way of waking up, and it hasn't worked. If you're at my doorway, it probably hasn't worked because although most of my teaching is about clearing, what we're really known for here is about waking people up. And I have two other teachers now who are capable of doing that, and will be putting their services, making their services available here very shortly. So you'll have options. You won't have to pay an arm and a leg to talk to me. You can just pay an arm and talk to them. But recognizing that your way doesn't work, can you really tell yourself that? Because you've just known that it would, and you've changed teachers. My God, you've changed teachings. You've read all kinds of books. Fred, I knew this teacher so well, and we were great friends, and this and that, and I just couldn't wake up. And Fred, I didn't really like this guy, but I just was convinced that he knew the way, and so he became my way, and he didn't know the way, so I didn't get there. But I don't want to tell myself that I chose a way that didn't work. But we can debate what you chose or not. But the fact is, your way doesn't work, does it? It's just clear as day. So you've already tried what? Figure out what you've tried and then put a big X through it and notice that doesn't work either. Not at the way that you do it. I'm not saying that meditation isn't very helpful, but the way you do it hasn't brought liberation. I'm not saying inquiry is fantastic. If you know how to do the right skillful inquiry, it can bring liberation. So it does regularly here. But it appears that your way doesn't work. It just doesn't. And deciding that I'm going to give my way the real dedication it deserves, I think you've probably done that before. It didn't work then, did it? What are the odds of it working now? I think they're pretty poor. And I think that you are just very slow in recognizing that if you stick to your guns, if you want to do things your way, which is I just hear it all the time. And I don't need anybody's help. And all this, I hear it all the time. And I used to hear that same thing around drunks who didn't want to go to AA. But funny thing is, those of us who did, a good percentage got sober, and very few outside of our group did get sober. A bunch of us did, very few outside of that. They couldn't recognize that their way didn't work. They had to be in control. Well, you're not in control anyway about anything. But you don't have to believe that right now, although it would be very helpful to you if you did. If you could begin to recognize that you're caught. When I first realized that I was genuinely alcoholic, which means that I tried to quit drinking and I could not. That freaked me out because I'd never really tried that. I mean, I tried hard, and been sober for a day or a week or whatever, but I just sooner or later I would talk myself into the fact that my problem is not that I drink, I just drink too much, and I'll just drink less. And God, train wreck after train wreck. You think they'd get rid of the engineer, but you can't because the engineer is you. So you just got somebody who's going to go from train wreck to train wreck your whole life, and there's nothing you can do. And for me, what I realized was that I could not quit drinking, which meant that I was destined to, because I was a low bottom drunk, and I was destined for insanity and dying from alcoholism or what happens during the insanity. Or disease from the insanity, like cirrhosis, whatever. I mean, I just couldn't do it, which meant I had to face the alcoholic's death, and that's just not something you want to do. I mean, it's really, really ugly. Because I've had friends die, and I've seen a lot of people in very rough situations because of alcohol and drugs. And the thing is that I didn't want to give up my way, because my way included drinking. But then one morning I met my sponsor, great guy named Lloyd, and we met for coffee, and he told me something that had never occurred to me. It was a shocker. It's kind of like what I'm telling you, and that's one of the reasons I'm telling you this, is that it works so well for me. He looked, and in the big book it says, if you are willing to go to any lengths, right, then we can help you. You can quit drinking if you're willing to go to any lengths. And that was my problem. I hadn't been willing to go any lengths. The problem was I didn't even want to quit drinking. I just wanted my life to magically get better and me to get back my bank account and my, pardon us, the OCD part of me. And I just wanted to get back my in good graces with my wife, get money in the bank and stuff, right? Get my stuff back. That's what I was really interested in. Well, you can't get your stuff back, money back in the bank and everything, as long as you're continuing to drink like I was. My way didn't work. And then Lloyd looked at me that morning and he said, Fred, going to any lengths includes not drinking. And when he told me, a pin could have dropped in that restaurant. I mean, I was just so freaked out by what he had just told me. He was telling me I really had to quit drinking. He was telling me that I really, 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 and truly had to quit drinking, like forever. I know it's a day at a time, but a day at a time, we were going to be getting to forever at some point. So I really couldn't hold the day at a time concept very strongly in my head, but I'm telling you, it's a very powerful way to live. So I was destined to die an alcoholic's life, and surely a derelict's life, because I had been derelict when I had more control than I did at the point that I was trying now, because I just had, obviously, it didn't have any real control. I didn't have any real control, but I had some control. I did not. See, it's hard to tell yourself the truth. Even now, it's hard for me to tell myself the truth that I can't drink. I just can't do it, because I end up in disaster when I do. My way doesn't work. That's what I have been trying, different versions of my way for 20 years, trying to quit drinking. And I didn't always want to quit drinking real sincerely, but there were times where it felt like I was real sincere. My way doesn't work. So Lloyd had a way. Lloyd was sober 8 or 9 years when I met him. I couldn't even imagine it. I mean, as far as I could tell, this guy was the founder of AA, because 8 years was like a million years to me. It was like you must have been born with 8.5 if you've been sober 9 years. I can see somebody going 6 months, maybe. but not a whole year or 2 years or 3 or 9. But he did have a method. I didn't like the method. I had tried the method before. I didn't care for it. But now I recognized that it didn't make any difference what I thought of it. I needed to do that. That was action that I needed to take, that I had to take if I wasn't going to live miserably and probably die miserably as well. And that living miserably thing, it doesn't sound that bad until you're living miserably. And all of a sudden it's, oh my God, this really sucks. So I adopted Lloyd's method, and Lloyd's method was the AA method. And, you know, I can't tell you it works for everybody or whatever. I'm just telling you it worked for me. I can tell you it worked for me, and I can tell you it worked for my wife, Betsy. And she was an IV drug dealer. You know, she looks like a little school teacher now. Nobody would imagine it, but she used to be a dope fiend, right? And I was just a derelict drunk. So amazing things can happen when you're willing to give up on your way. And when people come to me, I try to ferret out how much they want to wake up. Because if somebody wants to wake up, you know, less than 50%, my odds are not good in helping them. But the good news is that by the time you get to me, most of everybody really wants to quit drinking. So I get mostly 50 and 51 percenters. I never get anything over that. There's nobody on earth that wants to wake up so badly that they have to give up how to do it, right? They have to give up their way of doing it. But if you can get somebody who is enthusiastic, who's open, I had an awakening session with a guy yesterday. And for him, it was just like falling off a roof. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Just like from the very first questions, you could begin to see the eyes, the life coming up. You could begin to see awakeness catching on to awakeness. So, and what I'm saying is it was like falling off a roof for him. It was just, couldn't have been easier. It was beautiful. It was great for him. We laughed our butts off. It was just absolutely terrific. And because he gave up on his way. Now, he had tried my way. Listen to this story. He had tried my way 6 years ago, and he woke up with me. He had tried everything for decades. Nothing worked. He got with me, and he woke up in about an hour. And he couldn't believe it. So he was very, very happy, but he didn't do anything. Hush. But he didn't do anything to, but you know what? I'm going to have to just pause for a second here. This little dog was not going to take no for an answer. Okay, I'm back. So what you just witnessed was two things. You just witnessed conditioning and in great quantity, and you got to see surrender. So there's conditioning here, which responds is that when Willie wants something, the answer is he's going to drag me until I say yes. So why fight him on it? Just go ahead and do it. And so he's trained me. I mean, I thought I trained him to do what I wanted him to do, but he's trained me to do what he wants to do. So, the surrender part is that I just got up and did it, right? And his conditioning is he knows that if he bugs me, he can get out. Now, I don't think Willie thinks all this out, right? I don't think he's got a piece of paper and notes and a calculator or anything like that. It's just this is the way he follows what works without having to comment on it. How about that? So we were talking about the fact that your way doesn't work, and that's what we just have to. If you can reach that conclusion, that your odds of waking up will just go way up. If you recognize that you are being led around by a 3-pound brain, you think it's you and I've got all this will and everything. It's a 3-pound brain that is actually just processing thought. It's not actually even creating them as I see it. So it's like the PC. The PC is not thinking. It just does. It's there. It's just a box of conditioning, and you do these things, and certain things happen. If you've got the right software, you've got a light, and you've got electricity, and the conditions have to be right. So the condition for you awakening is to stop trying to do it your way. Now, there are plenty of teachers out there, and there's plenty of practices and all that, but I think that most of you, by the time you get here, most of you have tried most of that, and you think, I didn't give it a good enough shot. I'll go back and I'll do it harder. And then we hear something like, well, there's nobody to do anything and no one to do it, or nothing to do and no one to do it. Or if you try too hard, you're doing it wrong. And then what are we doing? We're thinking all that. We're processing all that. And it's like, well, what is the truth? What is it? And I go to me for an answer out of that. You get that? That's what I used to do when I was drinking. Should I take a drink? Oh, I asked the wrong guy. I always asked me, should I take a drink? And the answer was always yes. It might beat around the bush a little while, but the answer was always going to be yes. So I'm going to invite you, and I promise you that this is the way I see this, and I believe it to be absolutely true. If you want to wake up, then the best way for you to do so is to join this teaching. You can join this teaching in satsang, and you might get some return on that. I had people wake up any number of people wake up in satsang. But the really tried and true way is to do an awakening session. And my time is very expensive. So we got these two teachers, and who can do the same thing. One of them's been with me for a while. And the other one, I just watched an awakening session yesterday that was picture perfect, absolutely perfect. And the woman woke up and she was tickled to death, as they always are. And so there's a methodology here. And I know you always heard, like I did, methods don't work. Well, whatever they're teaching you to do, that's their method. So they don't really believe methods don't work. They just think if you're not doing what they're doing, which is their method, then it won't work. I recognize that there are other ways of waking up. You can do it spontaneously, but I wouldn't bank on it. I've had thousands of people come through here, and and a couple of handfuls of people who've spontaneously awoken. It's more than that, but it's not a big room full of them. Don't bank on that. Meditation helps some people, it does. But I've also worked with people who've meditated for 20, 30, 40 years, and they don't know their true nature any more than they did when they started. They maybe have calm lives, but in their calm lives, they're pretty frustrated because they can't wake up. And so, there are other practices. And inquiry is a great practice. That's the one that worked for me, and it might work for you. But if you don't know how to do it right, it probably won't. And that's sad, but it's true. How do I know? Because I get people all the time tell me I've been doing inquiry for years. And they try my style of inquiry, and they wake up. What has to happen for everybody that comes here, it's so hard. I get that. It really is. It shouldn't be so hard, but we're just so arrogant and thick-headed. And so we don't want to confess the fact that we don't know our ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to waking up, right? If we did, what would we be? We'd be awake. We just don't know how. We don't know how to do that. And what I'm saying is I have a method to help you do that. I can't do it for you. I can't make anybody wake up. I can't wake up everybody that I try to. But I do wake up 90% or so, if not more. But certainly 90% is a very good record. Because when I started doing this, I mean, my guess on how many people were waking up in non-duality was 2 or 3% or something. Call it 5%. Is that if your odds were 5%, would you dedicate the next 30 years of your life to going for this 5%? I mean, maybe so, but they don't have to be 2 or 3 or 5%. They can be 90%. But you have to be willing to say, my way doesn't work, and I'm going to try his, because he's been around just too damn long. He can't be a complete fraud. They would have thrown him off the internet a long time ago. He's been coming on and saying, if you call me on Wednesday and set an appointment, I'll wake you up Thursday at 3 o'clock. And I've been doing that for 10 years, just that kind of thing. So don't tell me what I'm doing doesn't work. I've got a teaching full of people for whom it's worked. But don't think that waking up is a one-shot deal. It just isn't. That's what I wanted. That's what everybody thinks, until they really start to talk to somebody who's awake. And most of those people, if they're candid, they will tell them you have to wake up over and over again. Because it's awakeness's job to surrender to relativity, and it just can't seem to do it when it is believing itself to be a character. It just can't do it. It's not that the odds are minimal there. It's the odds are pretty near zero. Because the only thing in the way of waking up is the one who wants to wake up so badly. And I understand that that's just a crazy statement, but it's true. It's absolutely true. Any authentic teacher will tell you that is true. And you may be thinking that you're talking to Fred Davis who had an awakening. That's not true. You're talking to awakeness. You are awakeness, and you're talking to awakeness about an awakening that came through this unit, not really to this unit. Fred never woke up. Fred desperately wanted to find out the truth of God. Instead, God found out the fiction of Fred Davis, right? It's exactly the opposite. It's a backwards teaching. So this teaching costs money because Betsy and I live on it. I mean, that's off of it. That's what we do. And this is what we do. This is the only thing we do. So we have to charge you money. We're not trying to bleed you dry. And if you're in tight circumstances, we will work for you, but we can't give this to you, because if we do, then we'll be in line at the poorhouse, right? And I don't want that happening. Not that everything wouldn't be okay. It's just, but the unit would not. But everything's okay now, and I've got a house and a wife and dogs and food on the table. No need for me to give that up. It was one of my fears. What happens when Fred wakes up? Will he take all of his stuff and give it to the poor? The answer is no. What is the answer generally? It's no. I've heard that sometimes people do that, but I have never in my life had a client who woke up through me do that. Never. It's not because they can't see, it's because they can see, which would be, I only got a little bit of stuff compared to what the world's got. I can't raise the tide very much if I throw all my stuff in there. And then the next thing I know, I'm in line with the other people trying to get resources. So better for me to earn resources and share a part of that, which I certainly do. The unit is not comfortable with how much awakeness gives away through this body. It really is not. But it doesn't have any choice. It doesn't have there's no part in the decision, and there's no decision to be made because awakeness just does it. See, God doesn't check with me before he does things. God does things, and I found out about it later. Because, God starts driving to California, and I don't know it until I'm already in the car and packed, and all of a sudden it comes to me, I'm going to California. Why am I going to California? Well, and it's like, I can't really explain it or whatever. I go to I come to the study and I end up in the living room, right? Straightening books instead of going in and getting a drink. Your way doesn't work. Why not recognize that? Why not come here? We got satsang. We now have these, we have group clearing series. We've got 2 or 3 of those running. People really like those. People are, gaining a lot of clarity through those. And it's just a small group meeting, where you're with just a few people and you're talking with me. See, when there's a group, I don't have to charge so much because there's a bunch of you contributing. And I don't want to charge a lot. I mean, if somebody were to give me the money, I wouldn't charge at all. If I could live comfortably for the rest of my life, I wouldn't care about getting richer. I don't care anything about getting rich now. I really don't, except for the fact that it would take the pressure off of this teaching, which would be great. So yes, I want to get rich, but only for that reason. That's the truth. But the security of the unit and the unit's wife and dogs and all of that. So I'm just like you. See, have you figured that out? I'm not special. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who, by a random stroke, as far as I can tell. I mean, I've studied like hell, but so what? People study like I did or hurt or worse, and they don't get anywhere. So this was a lucky unit in the fact that it woke up. I'm just a guy. So I don't have anything special that you don't have. You can wake up, I promise you. You're actually already awake, but we don't want to go through that right now because that's more non-dual teachings. But it's true, but you don't know it's true and you won't believe it's true and you can't see how it's true. And I can help you with all of that. I can, my other teachers can. That's Glenda and Bo, and they're both excellent teachers. They really do. I mean, they know this stuff inside and out. It's their experience. That's how they know it. And it's my experience. I know it inside and out. And you don't have to talk to me. You can talk to them and they can help you instead. If you want to talk to me, okay, I'm going to charge you twice as much as I would if I was talking to them. But you can talk to me if that's, really your passion. But I can't speak to everybody who would speak to me for less money. I just don't have time. And I just, I'm older now. I'm very ill in terms of, recovering from the spine surgery. So I just don't have the capacity to do a lot of meetings. Baby, I'm doing a video. So I would like, I'd just like for you to recognize your predicament. Recognize your predicament and take action. It's very easy. There's a bunch of very nice people waiting to help you. They are very nice, and we have a wonderful community. And everybody loves each other. We get along very well. I know that sounds like pie in the sky, but it's true. It's true. We have respect for each other. Anybody that doesn't have respect for people will end up outside of this teaching in a heartbeat, I guarantee you. So the people that are here will respect you, and they will respect each other. That is part of the living method. Come and join us. I love you. Thank you for listening to this for as long as you did. Bye for now. Behave.